Whether it is on a physical keyboard or displayed on a smartphone screen, we use keyboards every day to communicate or to write down information. But how often do we analyze how letters are put? So, whether you're here because you searched the first 6 letters of your keyboard on YouTube, or ask yourself why your keyboard probably starts with QWERTY, let's get educated on the subject. Let's take another look at our keyboard. Here is the QWERTY layout. It is named after the first 6 letters. The letters in such a layout are distributed over 3 rows. An upper row, home row, where we rest our fingers, and a lower row. But why are the letters put like this and not otherwise? In an alphabetical order, maybe? To try to answer this question, we need to go back in time to see how this input method evolved. We have our well-known keyboard that was introduced in the 1970s as an input interface for computers. In the 1930s was born its ancestor, the teletype. In 1868 was patented the first commercially successful typewriter. We're gonna stop here. This typewriter was patented by Christopher Latham Scholes, and it had a very familiar layout with, guess what, the QWERTY layout. This seemingly random layout that has been used for 153 years. Researchers try to explain this. The most common hypothesis was related to a technical problem with the typewriters that could get jammed when 2 adjacent letters were to be actuated rapidly in succession. In order to avoid that, Scholes has presumably separated letters that are commonly used in pairs: T far from H, S from T, H from E. That was supposed to allow each type bar to return to the resting position before the typist could strike the next key. But this hypothesis has been recently challenged by Koichi Yasuoka, a Japanese researcher, that pointed out the fact that the jamming couldn't have happened on Scholes machines because of the way it was designed. Instead, Yasuoka claims that the QWERTY layout has its roots in telegraphy that was very commonly used in the 19th century. This was in the 19th century, so typists wrote the year 18-something a lot. The letter I was used instead of the number 1 in that time. This is why it was put near the number 8. Messages were typed in Morse Code, a code that consists of dots and dashes. Each letter is a combination of these. An example that we use all the time: SOS. In the Morse version used in the US, Z and SE were very similar, so the operator had to wait until the end of the word to know which letter was intended. That explains the proximity of the letters Z, S, and E. In addition to that, C and S also had similar Morse code, and that's why they were placed so close to each other. What about the other letters? Well, they're simply placed in an alphabetical order, with the exception of vowels, which are predominantly on the upper row. Fast forward 153 years and several pandemics later, QWERTY is still here. Let's try to type common English words using this layout. We notice some problems, like complicated finger motion and a tendency to use one hand for typing. We are way past the telegraph era. We don't use jamming-prone typewriters anymore. Why don't we have a keyboard layout that's studied to provide a more appreciable typing experience? Well, we have one, the Dvorak Layout, named after its inventor, the educational psychologist August Dvorak. This layout, that exists since 1936, has been designed with the following principles in mind. On a Dvorak keyboard, vowels and the most used symbol characters are on the left, with the vowels on the home row, while the most used consonants are on the right. For maximum speed and efficiency, the most common letters and bigrams should be typed on the home row, where the fingers rest, and under the strongest fingers. The least common letters should be on the bottom row, which is the hardest row to reach. And you tell me, has anyone proven that? Well, a guy named Patrick Gillespie went into the effort of making a tool that calculated distance traveled by fingers on different layouts. Let's drop some bars to illustrate. No, not these bars. When touch typing the most commonly English words, we notice a more distributed and balanced finger and hand usage. Total distance traveled by all the fingers for the QWERTY layout is 15,969 centimeters, while it's 9,506 centimeters when using Dvorak, which represents 40% less. When considering row usage, Dvorak helps the user keep his fingers on the home row twice as much. The Dvorak also has its shortcomings. It made very popular keyboard shortcuts unusable. And it was very hard to learn for QWERTY typists. Then came the Colmac layout that was created from the QWERTY layout and was aimed at minimizing finger path distance and making heavy use of the home row. To better visualize finger motion for these layouts, you can watch Patrick's video. Even though several layouts have appeared over time, keyboards still come mainly with the QWERTY layout. As a lot of things in life, this is probably due to early adoption, which led to it being the standard for so long that the costs of switching to another layout outweighs the benefits in terms of speed, especially for the mainstream typist. We arrived to the end of our video. We hope you enjoyed watching it. You might have noticed this is our first video, and we would like to hear from you. What are your suggestions? What did you and didn't you like? Let us know in the comment section. If you liked the video, make sure to leave a thumbs up and consider subscribing and activate the notification button.